Okay, so let's talk about the path to generating marketing sourced pipeline. And let's talk about it in the context of a typical client for us that sells some sort of CapEx equipment, big piece of machinery, long sales cycle, complex sale, multiple people that are buying process influencers. Because that's the type of situation where some patience is just going to be required if you expect to produce any kind of meaningful business result from your marketing investments. You look at kind of the timeline, here are the things that should be happening. The first few months should be focused on building foundation. And for every company, it's going to be a little bit different. We've started working with businesses that are building a marketing program from scratch. We've worked with others that have some good foundational pieces in place and some great staff that has a variety of skills. So everybody's got a different starting place, of course, but regardless, there's almost always some foundational work that needs to be done that's going to be the kind of the building blocks for building a long-term sustainable marketing program that's going to get you to the business outcomes that matter to you. And so some of the things that need to be happening there, in my opinion, are there should be positioning work. It's got to start with focus. There are very few manufacturers I have ever consulted that have said, this is exactly who our audience is, and that's it. It's usually, we serve 8 different industry verticals, and we've got customers who buy this big stuff, and then customers who buy all these little things, and that's fine. Like I'm not necessarily discouraging that. That's more of an operational decision in a lot of ways. But what I do believe is that from a marketing standpoint, there needs to be focus. So you've got to zero in on who is where is there room for growth here? Who is an ideal customer that is profitable? Who are the buying process influencers? Let's deeply understand them through customer interviews and through talking to our sales team that interacts with them. And then let's position ourselves accordingly. Let's develop a value proposition that speaks to them. Along with positioning, there's going to be developing a content strategy. How do we create a bank of content that is going to speak to the things that those people care about? Getting foundational pieces of your website in place. Doesn't necessarily mean a website overhaul, but it will probably mean some getting foundational pieces in place that are going to facilitate a successful online marketing program, because your website's home base. It's getting a technology stack in place. Let's get the CRM in place and configured the right way and make sure it's useful. Let's get a marketing automation system in place. Let's get the right analytics systems in place. So your first few months are going to be foundational in nature, and you're probably not going to produce any results, frankly, because unless you've got something running in the background that you've already been doing. But you got to take the time to get these pieces right, or else nothing's going to work right down the road. So that's a tough stage to get through a lot of times. Once some of that stuff is good enough, I'm a huge fan of continuous improvement. Nothing has to be absolutely perfect because you can always be making it better. But once those core foundational pieces are in place and they're good enough, now we can start moving into the things that are going to start moving those KPIs upward that are going to lead to the business outcomes you're looking for. You might be 4 months into a program and now all of a sudden you're starting to really focus on the creation of content and then the distribution of that content. So content assets that address those things that those most important buyers care about could come in written form, it could come in video form, it could come in the form of webinars or a podcast or whatever it is. Your insights and supporting pieces of content like case studies and really well developed product pages, these things are going to work together to give your audience what they need to the content they need to consume to put you in their consideration set to start earning their trust and attention. And then it's a matter of not sitting back and waiting for people to show up and find that content. We need to be proactively going out and targeting that ideal customer profile and putting this stuff in front of them. So we would refer to that as content distribution. And so you're making these content assets, you're starting to distribute them. There is still a runway there. You should not expect that you're going to start running Facebook or LinkedIn ads to get your content out there in front of the right people, and that within 30 days your pipeline is going to be just immediately filling up, like there will be probably a period of 3 to 5 months before you're going to start to see super meaningful results. Of course, this is going to vary for every company and depending on what you sell and how much demand there is out there already. But my point is, that's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be a ramp period. So you might be 6 months in before you really start to see some super meaningful things start to happen. If it's not happening by then, well then, okay, maybe it's really time to say like, okay, are we doing the right stuff here? But and again, there should be KPIs that are indicating you're moving toward marketing source revenue or the business outcome you're trying to achieve. But now you're maybe 6 months in, and as you get into that second half of your first year of a new program, you should start to see these, what I would refer to as meaningful business outcomes, starting to take shape. As you move into the second year, now you're probably under the assumption that you're doing things right. Well, you're constantly just improving this machine. You're looking at the data, you're interpreting that data, you're making decisions about how to make changes to your program at a macro and micro level, and you're feeding all that back into the system. So it just becomes, at that point, it becomes sort of cyclical, and you're just learning and improving at all times.